Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my real estate show. I am your host, Angela Olmos. I'm a full-time real estate agent in the Northeast Florida area. I'm with Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage, and I am creating a list of video series with a lot of great information about buying a home. And today's topic is how to buy a home with no money down. So for that topic, I have a great expert, a friend of mine who I'm going to bring into the show, Delaney Bravo. She is a rock star. She absolutely knows her stuff, and she's going to share all of that with us. She's with Jet Home Loans. So let me bring Delaney up to the show. I appreciate you guys watching. Welcome, Delaney.
Hello. This is so exciting. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're here. So I wanted to just kind of dive into the whole concept of how to buy a home with no money down. And one of the things that I wanted to cover, first of all, is that when you buy a home with no money down, that doesn't mean that you have no money. That just means that you can get a loan for the value of the home up to 100% financing. So this misconception of, maybe someone borrowing 100% financing doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have the funds available. It might, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. So I wanted to open up this topic for anyone that's watching who may have an interest in it, learning more about how to do this, how to leverage financing to help you buy your home, of course, that you're going to be living in, but perhaps also invest in real estate. So I'm glad that you're here.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and you know what I just realized? I'm going to put my phone on silent because we don't want that in the background. So basically, when you do 100% financing, many people think of one main program or two main programs. Those are both government options, and they are VA loans and USDA loans. And I can if you want, I can go into briefly just what those are and how those work if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that'd be
okay.
Good.
Perfect. So VA is the Veterans Administration. So that is a loan for active duty veterans or surviving spouses of past military. So that allows you to get a loan for 100% of the price of the home. So there is no down payment needed. There are, with all of these types of loans, there are closing costs. Now you could ask, and that's Angela's kind of area, negotiating all of that. And she's a killer negotiator. So she could get the seller to pay for those for you. Maybe you split them. So there are ways to get into a house with no money down with VA. And then also USDA, which is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, has a loan program that is reserved for more rural areas. So there are areas within Clay County, St. Johns County, Nassau County that do qualify for that USDA program, which again allows 100% of the loan to be financed or the house to be financed.
Delaney, there's something that you mentioned there, which I don't think most people realize, and that the VA eligibility could actually be used by a surviving spouse.
Absolutely. I just did one last month and it was amazing. Like, she didn't even know. She applied for a conventional and she was getting her deceased, husband's VA disability. And so I just said to her, where's this disability from? And she told me, and we flipped her to a VA and she didn't need any money down.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So if there's anyone that's listening who might be in a similar situation, I think that most people don't realize that because their spouse had served in the military, and they're their surviving spouse, then they have access to all of those benefits as if they were the actual veteran. So that's great. That's great to know.
Yep. And with the VA program, we can do a credit score of 580. So many people think that buying a home is so scary because they just don't realize how it's just like this. It's like the guy in Deal or No Deal that's up in the thing. Like, nobody knows what they look like. It's not that scary, especially if you have experts like Angela and myself to kind of take you through the process and explain everything. You can have a 580 and be in a home within 30 days. So those are two options right there that are the traditional zero down options.
Got it. So those are traditional, more, like mainstream. However, there are some programs here in Northeast Florida that become available, sometimes even at certain times of the year or while funding is available, that you know about, that people can also tap into to save on down payment and actually get some down payment assistance, right?
Absolutely. So I am going to kind of break this section up in two different like categories, because I think that's going to be the easiest to tackle it. But let me just throw out there to everybody, when it comes to down payment assistance, when it comes to those grants or special programs, you want to get a full application with preferably me as your loan officer, because there's so many little nuances. So please give me a call. I'm happy to run the numbers, but we want to make sure that we have everything to get you in the right program, because I don't want to, blast so much information that it's overwhelming. But basically, to break this up into two different sections, you have down payment assistance options for government loans and for conventional loans. So government loans are the USDA, the VA, and FHA, Federal Housing Administration. So let's say you do a VA loan and you don't need money down, but that seller will not cover those closing costs for you. You can actually add closing cost assistance to a VA loan to cover that. So there are ways to really need no money down, even if you're even in a zero down. I mean, there's so many options, and I can kind of go into those for us if you'd like to.
Yeah, I definitely do. But one of the things that I also want our audience to understand is that when you take a look at a loan, you don't just take a look at credit score. You don't just take a look at income. You don't just take a look at, past history. You take a look at the whole picture. So we really encourage people that are interested in 100% financing to contact Delaney and get a full pre-approval to really know where you fit in those parameters. It's really hard to say if you have this credit score, then you automatically qualify, because you haven't seen yet, again, that big picture that really reveals the whole scenario.
And especially with the down payment assistance programs, just to kind of, go into what you just said, when it comes to the down payment assistance, every single one of the programs that I'm going to talk about from now until probably the end of the video have income limits based on the county. So, your family can only make a certain amount of money to qualify for some of these programs. There's purchase price limits. So, we can't do down payment assistance to buy a $1 million house. So things like that. And if you have a lender who is giving you a pre-qualification letter for a down payment assistance program without looking at your documentation, that is a problem. We want to make sure we have everything reviewed before we issue anything with down payment assistance.
And that's so comforting to hear from my side of the table, Delaney, because I know we work together, we're in sync, we're kind of like, we both need each other to get our clients to the closing table. But especially when it comes to the financing part, we want to make sure that all of those I's are dotted, all those T's are crossed before we get into selecting your home, negotiating your home, getting it under contract, going through inspection, ordering appraisals, because by then you're so much vested into it, time-wise, energy-wise, financially, that the last thing you want is for something to come up last minute with the loan where it could have been seen ahead before. So I love that you take the time and the initiative to really make sure that you get a clear picture that that's going to be approved before we get into the whole process of buying a home.
Absolutely. I always tell any buyer who wants to explore down payment assistance, I always tell my real estate agents, if we can, let's not go house hunting until we know exactly what they're pre-approved for, because those parameters are so specific. And that's why you really want an expert who knows these programs inside and out.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. So let's dive right into the programs. What do you have?
Okay. So with the government programs, like I talked about, you can add down payment assistance to any of those programs. So for example, like I mentioned, VA, you don't need a down payment, but let's say that seller won't cover those other costs and you don't have that money, or you just want to look at the down payment assistance. So there are two options for down payment assistance on government loans. One is $7,500 and the other is $10,000. This can be used to go towards your closing costs or your down payment, or both. So for example, if you're doing a VA loan or USDA loan where there's no down payment required, then that money doesn't need to go towards a down payment. So we'd use all of that towards your closing costs. If we're doing FHA, that always requires a 3.5% down payment. So depending on your price point, let's say you do have $4,000 in the bank, you just don't have enough for everything. We can use that money in those places to fill in those gaps for you.
That's fantastic. So that 3.5% that's required by FHA could actually be covered with the down payment assistance program that you offer. So,
absolutely.
So it's kind of broken up into two separate programs. You have your traditional mortgage that's going to be granted for 96.5% of the value of the home that you're buying. And then the additional 3.5% will be granted by that down payment assistance program.
Absolutely. And just for an example, don't make fun of my calculator, but let's say that you were doing a $175,000 loan. So 3.5% of that is $6,125. So if you get the $10,000 grant, the $10,000 down payment assistance program, then you essentially have like $3,800 that we can use to cover those closing costs. So, and your down payment's covered as well. So there are options there. If you do VA, then you don't have a down payment. That full $10,000 can be used for those closing costs, and we make sure to use up every penny.
That's fantastic. So they're kind of like flex money, right? That you can use and allocate as you need it to be.
Correct. Absolutely. So yeah, we can use it. I've had buyers who they don't literally, there's not enough fees to eat up the full 10,000. So like I said, no money goes to waste. So let's say that there's $2,000 left over for whatever reason. I will take that $2,000 and I will get you a lower rate and charge you $2,000 for that rate. Then use that $2,000 to cover that charge. So now there's things like that. That's a little bit of a one-off. I'll go into the rates in a second, but there are some nuances like that you sometimes can work in with some of these programs.
I love that. I love that. So what are the names of the programs? What are they known by?
Absolutely. So they're set by Florida Housing. And I'll explain why. Many people would say, well, if there's a 10,000 program, why even care about a 7,500? I would just go for the 10, right? So there's different options. It's called the Florida First Bond Program, and this is the government version. I'm going to get into conventional in a second, and it's very similar, so that'll be nice and simple for us. But there is a main difference between the 7,500 and the $10,000 option. The 7,500 is a second lien that is on the home. You do not make payments on this. They give you the money, and it sits there as a second lien against the property. It is not forgivable, but when you go to sell the property, maybe you pay it all the way off or refinance, that 7,500 is repaid at that time. So it's a way for people to get into these homes. And let's say the market's hot and you're going to make 50 grand. You got into this house with no money down. So it's a good way to get into the house. So that's how that program works with the 7,500.
And when you say it's a second lien, it's very much looked at as a second mortgage, correct?
Correct. But there's no payment, no rate, no anything on it.
What?
It's literally just like pretend that you have your main mortgage. Let's say it's 175 and you have this second mortgage that's recorded for 7,500. No payments on that, no nothing. You just pay your first mortgage. But this one it never goes away. It is paid back when you sell the home, refinance, or pay it off. You will owe that money back. But a lot of people for their first house, I bought my first house, I didn't have that kind of money. So being able to have that money, then you sell the house in 7-10 years and you make profit. So it's really a great option.
Yeah, I can see how that would pay for itself when the value appreciates and you turn around and sell it. You could just pay that off. And it's wonderful. I'm surprised to hear that they are not required to make any monthly payments on it. Because go ahead.
Oh, sorry. That's the difference with the 10,000. That's the difference right there. So the 7,500, no payment, and it's repaid in one lump sum when you sell or whatever. The 10,000 has a monthly payment of $70 per month for 15 years, and that equals out and amortizes out to be the 10,000. So that one does have a payment. You get $2,500 more, but you have to qualify with that extra $70 a month. And it is taken, that one is a true extra payment.
And when you say the $70 a month, is that how much that payment would be monthly on those $10,000?
Correct. And it's for 15 years. So you would make your normal mortgage payment. Let's say it's $1,500 a month, and then you would make the $70 as well. And you do that for the first 15 years. Therefore, that $10,000 is paid back at that time. So year 16, you just have your first mortgage.
Wow. Okay, that's huge. Whoever's listening,
$70 a month for $10,000. You can't even get a loan for that.
Where can you go and get $10,000 to buy a home and only have to pay $70 a month for it? I mean, that's fantastic. You know, it makes me think of when we bought our first home. Me personally,
I'm sorry, somebody called me. I denied it. Like, so it kept going, but that's like 2 times eating out.
Exactly. That's eating out. Another thing is, you know, a lot of times when people buy their homes, they have to save for all of this. So it's nice to have an additional source to tap into for their down payment. That's great. And what are the rates on those on that piece, on that 7,500? Can you hear me?
I know, I'm looking in the camera. For some reason, it's turned off. Let me try and take my phone really quick.
I can hear you. Oh, she can't hear me. That's weird.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
See, okay, I can't hear you. Let me figure this out. Give me.
Here, I'm going to try to bring you back down. Okay, and then I'll bring you back up, Delaney. How about now? Did that help? Now I can't hear you. Try turning off your earbuds. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so you can hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I'll talk about the conventional really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know what the AirPods, but anyway, so I'll tell you about the conventional, but that's exactly it. So with the government, you do the 7,500 or the 10,000, and that's the difference. Do you want a payment or no payment? Things like that. The conventional has 4 options.
Okay.
But the first 2 are exactly the same. So we already mentioned those. You can do the exact same with the conventional. You can do the 7,500 or the 10,000. There are also 2 different options for you to do with conventional, a 3% grant and a 4% grant. So there's actually a grant that you can get as well. Those are a little bit trickier to get, but we do those as well. So that's where send me your information and I'll run everything and I'll tell you this is our best option based on your documents because of X, Y, and Z.
Got it. Got it. Can you hear me now?
I see your mouth moving, but this is real life, I guess. I was gonna just, if you want me just to finish, I can kind of talk about some of the requirements.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So here's the not so fun stuff, right? I know as a mortgage lender, I get paid to follow these guidelines. It's my job to know these inside and out. So I'm not going to bore you with a ton of the details. Like I said, call me and we'll figure out your plan. However, with these, there's credit score requirements and there's debt ratio requirements. There is also income limits, like I mentioned, and purchase price limits, which is, again, the 4 reasons why you do not go house hunting until your lender has your documents and reviewed if you're looking at down payment assistance. The minimum credit score, middle credit score is 640 for all of these programs when you add the down payment assistance. Like I mentioned before, VA, you can do 580. That's not when you add the down payment assistance. With any of these, you add that on and that middle score has to be 640. Also, the debt ratio requirements, there are ratio requirements, and I won't go into the boring math, but we would want to look at that. And then the rates, this is one thing that is a misconception, and I love to clear up off the bat with all of my customers. When you do down payment assistance, any of the programs I mentioned between the government 2 options or the conventional 4 options, they are, the rate is not set by your lender. It is set by the entity that provides you the money. So you could go to 10 different lenders. If you're doing down payment assistance, every lender is going to have the same fees and the same rate. So really, you're not shopping for your rate and you're not shopping for your fees. You're really shopping for trust, knowledge, experience, and in that overall process.
Fabulous, fabulous. Okay. Well, how would they get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
What I'll do is I'm going to, if you want to go for yourself for a second, Angela, I'm going to try and replug in.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, so let's give her a second to just kind of figure out the audio with the earpods. But I definitely thought that this was super helpful content as we're coming off the holidays. There's a lot of New Year's resolutions that are made, and perhaps if that meant buying a home this year, and you might need an extra hand with the closing costs or the down payment assistance, just know that there are tools and resources and programs available that you could qualify for. But just like anything else, if you don't look into it, you might just miss it. So I wanted to just bring these resources to you guys. Super easy to connect with us. I personally would handle the searching for the right home for you. I would also handle the negotiation of that contract. Just kind of walk you guys through the process of homeownership from the very beginning all the way through closing. But I heavily rely on my financing partners to help with the mortgage applications and also the funding of those mortgages for my clients. So we're very much a team. We work together, and we want to make sure that that everything runs smoothly for you guys. So when you close, you don't have any last minute surprises. So I think Delaney might be back. Let's see if we can hear her now. How about now?
I'm back, baby. I'm back. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Hopefully it wasn't too painful.
No. That was easy and super smooth. No problem.
Okay. I felt like but so I just got back on and I heard what you were saying. Exactly. You want to have a team, and like just a quick example for you guys, like for example, conventional loans, those income limits I was talking about, they only go off of the person who is on the application. So your husband could make 200 grand. If he's not on the application for the mortgage, his income does not count for your income, limit. But on government, it does. Even if we did the same scenario in wife's name only, you have to show husband's income. So you need an expert to show that knows those nuances. Like Angela said, you do not want to go pay for an appraisal and inspections and go house hunting and fall in love with that house with a lender or a real estate agent who's not experienced in these things. Like there's so many little details. You want to make sure you have somebody who gets it right.
Absolutely. Now, are these programs available all year round, or is this something that is available until funding is there, or do they expire? What does that look like?
That is a great question. So these all are, as of now, always available. When it comes to down payment assistance world, things can change. There was a program that was different a couple years ago that was really up and coming. That one's not available now. It should be back later this year. So stay tuned for us to, anytime there's any new updates, we'll do videos to let you guys know, if funds are starting to run out, new things like that.
Okay, and these programs would obviously be used to buy a Florida home, right? If we have anyone listening to us from out of state or anywhere in the world, these are specific to buying a home in Florida, correct?
These are specific to Florida. However, there are many, I'm licensed in many states, and there's down payment assistance almost in every single state. So even if you are looking at a different state, let me know. And if I'm licensed there, I can help you. And if not, I have a contact that I will make sure to get for you that can offer those down payment assistance.
Fabulous. Okay. Well, if they wanted to reach you, and obviously the main purpose of this is to make sure that you guys are aware of the resources, but most importantly, having the resources is great, but it's only great if you take action, if you actually use those resources, right? So what would be the next step for them to make to be able to find out if they qualify for down payment assistance and take advantage of this?
That's a great question. So the next step would be give me a call. I mean, it's just a conversation. I mean, many times I get on the phone with somebody. I don't push for me to pull your credit. That's not my style. I hear your story, your situation, and see if it's something that we can work up. And if it is, then the next step would be to do an application, submit those documents, and have us take a look and get you in that right program. Once we know our price point and we're at a good monthly payment, then we let Angela know that, and she's in the loop every step of the way so that we can then, find you your dream home.
Absolutely. So it's a process, right? I always recommend we get the financing secured, approved upfront. Once that's done, then that would come back to me with a pre-approval letter. That's what you would send me. And then I can, at that point, identify what's important to you in a home, what location are we looking for, what's the price point that you've been approved for. So it's kind of like searching and having all these filters to make sure that I only bring to you the properties that are going to match what you've been approved for and what's truly important to you from a personal standpoint. So bringing all of that together and then having the support of the financing there, it could really just make this process so much better than just maybe going about it just blindfolded and then having a ton of surprises. It doesn't have to be stressful. These things can have hiccups here and there, but it doesn't have to be stressful if we just follow the protocols and start with the financing. Once that's approved, then it'll come back to me, and then I can help you find the correct one for that loan and exactly what you're looking for. So thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today.
Of course, I will be back, guys. I think we're going to do some more videos. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much. And my number, 904-530-7216. And my email is teambravo@jethl.com. And I am so excited. Hopefully I can help some of you guys out there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. All right, guys. So there you have it. That was my good friend Delaney Bravo with Jet Home Loans talking about down payment assistance programs to help you buy your home here in Florida. If I could ever help you with, buying or selling your home here in Florida, I look forward to that opportunity. You can easily connect with me a couple different ways. I did want to make sure that you guys have my website, which is AngelaKnowsRealEstate.com. If you want to log in there and just have a look, you'll have a whole source of information as to how to buy a home, what properties might be available in the market, at what price range. So definitely check that out. And if you want to just simply have a discovery call where we just hop on the phone and just kind of get an idea as to where you're at in the process and what we need to do to create a strategy to help you get to your goal, then you can easily connect with me via phone, and you have my phone number there. So until next time, I look forward to hearing from you. Remember, this is all good resources, but we have to take action. So I hope that you do. Have a great day.